Leads us to our next question. We have Dan Hinkson. He's a retired U.S. Marine captain, now owns a small gun store in Virginia. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for your service to the country. What's your question, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Cuomo, for taking my question. Leader Pelosi, thank you. You know, this is very difficult for me, you know, as a retired Marine, to see these kinds of travesties happening in my country. And then on the flip side of that, as someone who is in the firearms industry, who caters to clients who support the Second Amendment and are trying to acquire firearms for their own personal protection, you know, it's very difficult. And my condolences go out to those who have been injured and killed and their families. My question is, given the totality of the events surrounding this latest incident, you know, we have potentially a lone wolf shooter, although that's being questioned now, I think, for very good reason. You know, someone who's a multimillionaire, spent thousands upon thousands of dollars to acquire his means of destruction, you know, legally from everything that we can see. You know, someone with that kind of motivation, what new law can we put out there that would stop something like this?
Well, first, let me thank you as a Marine, your service to our country, and thank you for your thoughtful question, Dan. We had come together in a bipartisan way to put together what we thought would save the most lives, and that is to have background checks, to gun violence prevention background checks, and to have them be effective. I believe that when the surveys are taken about this, Dan, overwhelmingly members of the National Rifle Association support background checks. Gun owners, the chairman, the person who's the head of our task force, Mike Thompson, Congressman Mike Thompson of California, he is a Vietnam vet, wounded in Vietnam, a gun owner, hunter. We all support the right of the Second Amendment right to bear arms. So that it isn't a question of that. It is a question of saying the people that you sell guns to, I'm sure, would not object to having a background check. They all get checked. They all get checked. But there are loopholes. There are loopholes on the internet, and the loopholes at the gun shows. And we want to. And there's one other loophole.
Person-to-person sales.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
And so if we could expand the background checks to include those, it would save lives. But it isn't the complete answer. We'd have to do many other things as well. And people have to be vigilant. We don't want people reporting on each other. We respect people's not only Second Amendment rights, but their Fourth Amendment rights. But something must have been obvious to someone about this along the way. But thank you for your for what you do and for saying your folks get checked.
You know, and also, Dan, I hear where you're coming from on this. Unfortunately, as one of many unwilling students of this problem in this country, because I've been to well over a dozen of these mass murders now, often it does come down, well, but he wasn't adjudicated mentally ill, and it's almost always he, right? So he didn't have a criminal background. So he would have cleared any kind of background check that you have. And there is that frustration. But this time's different, Madam Leader, and here's why. The bump stock that this man bought legally, it is allowed. It's a little bit of an end run around the spirit of the law of modifying weapons, but it exists. And it allowed him to increase the rate of firing of his weapons. We know he used them, and we know he did it to increase how many bullets he could put out there. That is something that if they were illegal, he would not have been able to do that. He would not have been able to have the killing power that he brought to bear on Bob Patterson's wife and 57 other people and 500 other who were injured. What about that as a measure?
Well, that is something that we should do right away. People were not aware of the bump stock or the bump fire stock, whatever. People call it one thing or another. And I do think there would be bipartisan support coming together to pass a bill to make it illegal to sell those, because you can buy them now as
completely legal.
Yeah. But there are many people who are killed without that kind of capacity on the streets of our cities every night. We have to recognize that we, again, the responsibility have to protect people is to have laws which do not endanger them. And again, by respecting, as Mr. Patterson said, he had a gun for protection. He wasn't anti-gun ownership, but yet he was posing the question, What are we going to do about it?
Well, the bump stock's different, right? Because it allows for what's basically what this man was doing, which was suppressive fire, inaccurate fire that was just bursts of bullets to do as much destruction imprecisely as he could. Do you think you can get Republicans to sign on to that measure as a quick first step?
Some people are signing on right now. Some Republicans are expressing in the press their interest in perhaps supporting it. There are all kinds of... So many people introduced bump stock bills or planned to this week because it's outrageous. Most people didn't realize this capacity was so accessible and what it could do from having it be one shot to being hundreds of shots. But something that we did with President Bush when I was Speaker was we had the digital, in terms of the background checks, digitizing the funds, to do that so that people would, it was more serviceable. Now somebody said, I think somebody in the White House was saying, oh, Chicago has the toughest gun laws in the country, but still they have the most murders on the street. Well, all you do is cross the line into Indiana, open up your trunk, fill it up, and take it back. So we have to have a national law to do that if you're going to a gun show or buying on the internet.
So let's talk